Alright, gang. Welcome to History 1510. Whoops. My sound check person. Come on, wake up over there. Alright, here we are, History 151. Moving our way through Chapter 7, Persian Empires. Still the same news as the last time I did this, which was actually yesterday. Because this is the big news. Trump's taxes, tax returns, secret for years, and now, mysteriously, just before an election, uncovered. Actually uncovered a while ago, but now, maybe not so mysteriously, released by the New York Times. Okay? An objective source, these are valid, by all accounts valid, primary sources that show that the President doesn't have as much money as he claimed and has not really paid any taxes in the last several years. Certainly paid much, much less than I've paid in the last several years. $750 in taxes per year? It doesn't matter that your golf courses are losing hundreds of millions. I know there's ways to rig this system, right? You know that and I know that. So let's get educated on the issues and folks, get registered to vote because we've got a big decision to make if you've not already made one, and a big ballot to cast come November. And it's not just for the presidency and vice presidency, right? Depending on where you live, governorships, 1/3 of the U.S. Senate, all of your representatives to the House of Representatives, half of Congress, so to speak, the lower house of Congress, 435 members. So get educated on the candidates, where you stand, and try to find the best of a match as possible, because you folks are going to be graduating while the people we elect are in office and starting families and enlarging your families and buying homes and all those important things we do. Hopefully avoiding war and avoiding economic collapse and battling COVID, and all these things are affecting our lives, right? So it does matter. I know sometimes it's complicated or it's boring and you'd rather do something else. Look, apathy is a decision, but apathy, meaning not caring about anything, does have consequences. All right, so keep up on the news. I can't post this as a current event because, well, I posted the current events 2 weeks ago. You do have a different one to read for this week. You have Chapter 7 to read for this week, and you have quiz number 7 to do for this week. Let me make sure I'm not lying to you. Heaven forbid I would ever do that. So what do we got? Well, for some reason, Chapter 6 is still showing up. It's supposed to disappear. Oh, goodness. Okay. When does it disappear? Oh, it disappears tomorrow. From where I stand, it disappears tomorrow. So by the time you're watching this, Chapter 6 will be gone, Chapter 7 will be up. Current events articles are there. Yeah, so current events articles. One per week, over 4 weeks. That'll be our next unit. Next exam, October 12th through the 19th. So you should be reading something about climate migration. Are people going to be moving to Western New York from, I don't know, the coastal regions, parts of the country where it's too hot? Buffalo is actually starting to attract in-migrants from climate refugees from places like Texas. So something to watch for and in some way to prepare for. Not sure how to prepare for that myself. But so I don't have the cash to go out and buy property and sell it to these migrants because I paid 20 times what Trump paid in taxes in 2016. Just saying. All right, folks, enough about that for now. Register your complaints in the complaint department, I guess, right? We're talking about ancient Persia or ancient Iran. The Achaemenid Empire, Cyrus the Great establishing this wide empire. Why don't we just go back a few, right? Why not? We have time. This is actually a short chapter. Okay? This huge empire stretching from really the borders of Greece, although there really wasn't a Greece. The Greek world was made up of city-states, right? But from the borders of these city-states on the Ionian Sea, like Athens and Sparta, stretching all the way into northwest India. By the time Cyrus establishes this empire, it gets larger after his reign. It's 2,500 years ago. There was no more Indus River Valley civilization. Okay, that had been abandoned. The Aryans had moved in and intermingled with the Dravidians. Go back a couple chapters if you've forgotten that. But this nonetheless will be a multicultural society. I mean, there are Hindu people here. We're not yet, well, are we? Yes, well, during the Persian Empire, we will see the rise of Buddhism over in this region. Buddhism will actually spread into what is now Afghanistan during the Persian era. be, as I said, Hindu people. There'll be Zoroastrian people. We'll talk about that religion tonight. Egyptians, Greeks, the descendants of the Hittites, Armenians, Babylonians. There's a lot of different peoples. We're allowed to say peoples in history, okay? I know in grade school, Mrs. McGillicuddy said, don't say peoples, Jonathan, it's persons. But here we're talking about societies, right? Groups of people or peoples. So this is multicultural. And look, for 2,500 years ago, Cyrus had pretty advanced thinking. How do I govern this mass of people? They're all different. They speak different languages. They might have different beliefs. They look different than one another. I can crush everyone who doesn't believe what I do, or I can just let it go. And, have them pay their taxes and work hard and get along, okay? And he chose the second alternative. Really more of a cosmopolitan view, based really upon human rights. Okay? He's the ruler who let the Hebrews, who had been held captive in Babylon for about 50 years. I know some of them had been born in Babylon, but you know what I mean. The Hebrew people had been held captive in Babylon by the Chaldeans 50 years, to go to Judah. Now, Judah could not be its own kingdom anymore. It's going to be part of the Persian Empire, but so what? They can worship Yahweh. Cyrus helps them rebuild a temple to Yahweh, to the sky god, to the Hebrew God. Not that he was Jewish himself, right? He didn't care, like, look, people pay your taxes, work hard, I don't care. It's kind of his attitude, right? Now, his son and grandson may be a little bit less tolerant, as we saw as last time. What else did Cyrus do? Besides being kind of open-minded, roads and postal systems, communication, trade, standard coinage, he's also a conqueror, though, as Andrew Marr pointed out in the video last time. It's not just Mr. Nice Guy, okay? So we have to weigh that zeitgeist that he was living in. Tolerance, sophistication, relatively speaking. Underground pipes, right? Irrigation canals, 23 states, royal audits, so inspectors going to check up on the empire, because Cyrus couldn't be everywhere, right? He couldn't do a tweet storm when he was mad at something. He'd send out the inspectors. The Ionian Greeks rebelled. That's the one thing you're not allowed to do. So under Darius, the son of Cyrus, an invasion is set for Athens, and the Athenians defeated this rather small Persian force at the Battle of Marathon. But the Persians come back under Darius' son Xerxes with a much larger force and are defeated again. The Greek people in the Persian War, for the most part, allied with one another, city-state plus city-state, although they've been in competition, even warfare with each other for generations. They mostly allied, and kind of the democratic, by that we mean the demos, the men who were resident citizens of Athens could vote, and they voted for war against Persia, the Spartans, who didn't really have a vote, but nonetheless had a great land army, because they had enslaved their neighbors, as we'll learn that in a future chapter. Yes, the Spartans were so tough because they had enslaved their neighbors, other Greeks, and they were afraid of the Helots rebelling. So the Spartans were always training in case there's some type of slave rebellion. Okay, it's not like the movies where this is Sparta and everybody's brave. They were slave owners, folks. Okay, they were a minority group enslaving a majority group, but they could fight. Okay, they had arete. They had excellence in at least the land combat, and they defeat the Persians. The Athenians had a navy. Under Xerxes, they kind of go back to Persepolis, and not much happens for another 150 years until we get to the Greek kind of sort of guy. He's Macedonian, we'll call him Greek. Greek-speaking, Aristotle-educated. Aristotle had been his tutor. He didn't listen to his teacher either, okay? Aristotle would preach the golden mean, moderation, the middle way, so to speak. Alexander's an extremist, right? He's an extremist, he's a narcissist, he didn't pay his taxes. I didn't say that was a slip, sorry. He was really consumed with himself, and he was a conqueror. Okay? Alexander is going to go to the Greek-speaking people and say, we need to invade Persia. And they'll say, why?